Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Reaper Golf Videos, aka the Century Countess. Today is a special video. We have another sewing adventure to share, and it's for my birthday outfit. We are going, as you guys know, or may not know. Hold on one sec, you guys. Alright, we're back. The theme is Rococo. I've been really loving the 18th century clothing lately, and probably because I've been watching a lot of historical films from that timeline. So I thought we'd do something fun for our birthday and do a drag theme, because it's been ages since I dressed up publicly in drag, and I've been missing it a lot. So I thought we do it. And here's our dress. It is the same style of dress that we got for my drag sister's wedding, and as you guys know, I did refurbish that outfit with a second dress, the same dress, you know, so there's a second dress on the way. However, let's just say this dress, now here's the thing about these dresses. Sometimes the dresses look good, sometimes they do not, and you can literally tell they've been rushed. So no matter what, you're gonna have to, if you want to keep it, you're gonna have to refurbish it. And this dress is not only not big enough, it is not historically accurate. These dresses, the actual real dresses, they're not like one whole dress. They are, a top, bottom, and stomacher. However, we not only are planning to change this, make it historical accurate, but we are going to change the style, which is not going to be easy. We're going to because I was going to keep it a sack dress with a new front, but then I saw the back, and the back is not well done. It's like literally bad. It's bad, you guys. I mean, this section right here is okay, but this whole section right here, it's not even. So we literally have to fully dismantle this dress. So let me pause the video and show you screenshots of the dress in its full. It's very wrinkly. They were not very nice with how they transported it. And I will say this, when I laid it out and I saw the imperfections, my reaction, if it was a sound effect, it would be a fart. So here are the photos of the dress in its full glory. Very sad, isn't it? Also, I did sharpen the image because, as you know, my cell phone doesn't make very good clear photos, so I did have to sharpen and edit the images to try to make them more clear. So there was a slight color change, but it is a very pastel pink. In fact, in one of the photos, it maintained a pastel pink color during the sharpening and the clearing process of our fixing the pictures. One sec, I gotta get a drink. But as I said, we are changing it from I'm not going to do the full fancy name of it, so I'm going to stick with the more English meanings instead of the French. This style is known as the sack dress. There's another name for it, but I cannot think of it right now. It's a robe a la something. I want to say a la France, maybe? Or a la Francais. And then, but we want to change it into a robe a la Polonaise, which I believe is a closed front style dress. Another proper way it is called is a circle dress or a ring dress. Here's the image of what we want, and as you can see, it loses the built-in cape. So here is the photo. One sec, let me show you the photo. We are back. I had to pause for a minute because there was a lot of police sirens. But yeah, that's the dress. That's how we want to design the dress. So we're going to try to save as much of the details as we can. Some of you are probably asking, why don't you just make the dress from scratch? Well, I'll explain that. There's a lot of this that's already pre-made, like, you know, the trimming details, etc., etc. So it saves us a lot of work. Frankensteining is a lot faster than it sounds. If you work on it religiously, that is. And as you know, there is a lot of drama going on with my life right now, so wish me luck on that, and wish me luck that I have time, because seriously, it's just, you know, when life affects you, it ruins things, and I'm so sick and tired of the unpleasant surprises. So fingers crossed that if you saw my post about the updation about future housing, fingers crossed that all that goes well and there's no more surprises. But enough about that. Another thing we're going to do here is the pattern pieces for the front closing of the dress. So this will not be a dress with a stomacher. However, this dress does have a way to make the stomacher if I wanted to, but we're not going to do that. We are going to fully make a ring dress. We're going to try to, at least. The front, we have enough fabric to make the interfacing and inner lining for the front piece. We are going to try to salvage as much of the lining of this dress to make a back piece, at least the beginnings of a back piece. We are going to try to not cut into the skirt much. We want to try to salvage the sleeves. We also want to make sure the trim is safe. So a lot of this is going to be seam ripped. And I'm taking you on that adventure. I am seriously going to be taking you on that adventure. So why don't we get started? The way this, the seam ripping probably may not be fun. It may not be something you're interested in. So I want to apologize, but yes, but here we go. And as always, we're losing stuff. It's never a video without a blooper. So, okay. So what we want to do is try to find, we want to first free the stomacher. So let's see, and like I said, we want to try to salvage this trim. So we're going to go here and we're just going to cut this strip. We're going to cut that bit away, and then we're going to, it was off camera, so I apologize. So here we go. We're going to basically start freeing the top, and then you can see the little gap. And this is a very, very awful stomacher, fake stomacher, I should say. So we are going to try to salvage as much as we can of this trim. All right, and we also want to try to save the pieces at the front because we're going to use the front pieces for reference. So let's see if we can try to salvage this as humanly possible. Let's see. First thing we're going to do is start cutting. And I'm not worried about the lace. I can replace the lace. It's just we want to try to save this trim, so here we go. And I can't look at the camera and this at the same time, so let me change this, lower this a little so you guys can see, at least to see as humanly possible. Alright, you're not going to be able to see much of my face, but here we go. Now then, let us try to, there is a waistband, so at the moment I just want to try to save that. Now then, let's try to cut as much as we can of the stomacher. Like I said, we will be trying to salvage as much of this dress as we can, and then as much of the other dress as well. Right, now let's just cut the front seam of this off. There. Alright, this is the stomacher. Now we're going to try to cut off the little fake trims, because the little fake trims is the same trim bits as this little gathering bit here. So what we can do is, if we need more, we can just copycat the design with these. So if we need more, more. If the second dress does not have enough. Now, I need to see where this, alright. So we have the seam of where the front of this ends. So we need to basically seam rip. So what I'm going to do is we are going to start seam ripping this to our best of our ability without messing this up. There it goes. There it goes. Alright, and then sometimes it's easy, sometimes they actually do an effort in, because some of these dresses, they don't do a good effort in sewing them perfectly on the machine, by the way. And you've guys seen my sewing skills. Stuff does not loosen. Stuff does not undo unless I want it to, or if it doesn't fit me anymore, or if it's so old it gives way. And like I said, I don't want to force it, so if we have to, we can go over this with scissors. Now, let me see if we can. I'm cutting the front, more of the front seam. This fabric, oh, I don't think we're going to be able to use this. This is so flimsy. The white inseam, we're definitely going to have to use something else. So, yes, so, see. Alright, here's what we're going to do, everyone. I guarantee some of this is painful from people. Alright, we are wanting, so let's just cut as best as we can on the seam line. And then we'll have a saved skirt panel. Sorry, I'm not talking, you guys. I'm concentrating. If I talk, I'll probably mess up. So enjoy the ambience if you hear any. Hopefully it's not bad ambience. Alright. We have one freed, well, almost freed panel. And then we did not, alright, I don't want to rip it because it's connected to the petticoat. We will be doing a back petticoat, a back piece for the petticoat, not with the other dress's petticoat, but with plain fabric, probably in pink. It won't be visible. It's basically how we did it, the same way with the blue dress that I wore for my drag sister's wedding. There it goes. Alright. We've reached the limit. Let's fray it some more. Well, not fray it, seam rip it some more. I always get my words mixed up. Alright. We reached the limit. Let's cut more. Alright, we've gotten to the part where the strap, right, this is why we salvaged the waistband, because we can just cut that off, and it won't damage any of the pleating at all. So we have one front panel, and this little waistline area. So this will be our guideline to where we sew the main dress. Alright, I'm going to do that to the other side off camera, and we'll go to the next step. One quick thing I want to mention is these dresses back then did not have a side zipper. Now comes the fun part. We had a short amount of time with the Maid of Honor dress, so we had to somehow salvage this part of the dress, which was the weak inseam. This time we have plenty of time, so we're going to cut off the inseam. So we're not going to turn the inseam into the back part of our petticoat. We're going to cut the petticoat off and replace it with a better quality fabric for the inseam, for the back part of our petticoat. And then with the other petticoat, we're going to do the same thing that we did. We're going to take the ruffle trim off of that and add it to this, so there's an extra layer to give it, just give it more character. I had to double check to see if I was filming. Like, ever since the incident with the makeup video, I'm like, sorry you guys, shit. I was going to pause it real quick when I realized it was coming out and I couldn't stop it, but I couldn't, as I just said, I could not stop the sneezing time. So we're not being nice with this inseam. However, I will admit I was very surprised we were able to make the petticoat with this style seam, because the style seam that we had for that dress, it was this type of fabric but in a different color. But these dresses need underpinnings and stuff. So, because after the event was over, we took off our petticoats, and since I made mine more historically accurate, I kept having to pull it up so you didn't see the beginnings of the chemise. Because we pulled it off, for easier access to places. And this year, I've decided this is another reason why I've chosen the ring dress, because instead of doing the big hoop that I wore at the wedding, I'm doing pocket hoops. which is still, you know, you can be used for formal occasion, but this will be more easier to maneuver in, less of a hassle. And not as huge, but it will still have character. Because I want to look pretty all night. Alright. We have the petticoat cut off. Now comes the fun part. Here is the back piece. Now we want to salvage these sleeves. So let's try. And I also want to try to salvage at least one of the front panels and as much as we can of the back panel. Alright, so this is going to be very hard to do. And the reason why I say hard to do is because, like I said, we don't want to ruin this. So we're just trying to feel where it's connected. Alright. Alright, so I think what we'll do is we'll first cut away the seam. As best as we can. Okay. False alarm. Well, not exactly a false alarm. We cut into the pink a little bit, but not the exterior pink, thank goodness, but a little bit of the, this. So we have to be very careful because the pleats are exposed, so we have to kind of separate what we can. And again, I apologize that this is not really a very good footage. At least you're seeing how I work on a costume, or Frankenstein a costume, as I say, prepping to Frankenstein a dress. All right, that's all separated. Now we are going to try to trim this. So this, trimming it this way instead of seam ripping will keep the trim in its shape. It will basically keep it stronger, because if we seam rip, it will weaken the trim. The trim, what's holding the gathers may may come undone, etc., etc. And like I said, I'm not too worried about the lace. So because I'm planning on replacing the lace, so if I cut into the lace, that is fine. I can literally hear the pleats being cut, but that's fine. Hopefully the area that we accidentally cut won't have too much damage. So there's literally, we need as much of this back part of the dress as possible, because, well, the upper part at least, because we want to try to save the back bit of the dress as possible, because we can't afford a third. We cannot afford buying a third dress. However, if we do need to, we can make a whole new petticoat if that happens, which is fine. And like I said, we'll just cut off the pleats of the other petticoat if we need to end up using that petticoat piece, and we can just buy, because the petticoat is just two large, like very large square pieces. It has a hold on, let me cut this off real quick and then I can kind of explain it to you guys better. Alright, there it is. We'll cut the lace off later. Yes, so the petticoat is two squared, kind of rectangular pieces like this, and then what you do, there's a little bit of a, I guess you could say, a little flat that's filled with gourd, and then you gather it at the sides to fit your waist. And then there's another one where it's similar to that, except it's like two pieces and they close like an apron, and then there's these little openings that no one sees, and that's where you put your pockets. Alright, so we got that done. Now let's try to salvage, like I said, the front piece. Well, the front part of the bodice piece, because we need to use that possibly for possibly to construct the front, the new bodice. We want to try to maintain the shape so the sleeves fit. And if we have to, we can always ungather the sleeve. Fingers crossed we don't end up making puff sleeves, because puff sleeves did not exist. We want tight fitted sleeves. So we did not cut fully over the armhole. We did end up extending the armhole. That's fine. Like I said, we can always ungather. And like I said, we want to try to salvage as much of this fabric as possible. Piecing did exist as well. Piecing was still popular. In the 17th century, there is a dress where a piecing method was used, so if we have to, we can always use the piecing method. But hopefully, I still hope it's only in areas that is not visible. Alright, so we're going to try to salvage the back piece. Let me trim and then let's cut the sleeve off. Where is, okay, there it is. We're just gonna, like I said, we don't care about this, the white fabric. So we'll trim the extra white fabric off later. Like I said, this video is probably just about the dismantling of the dress. And as you can see, that dress was this dress was a piece of work. I mean, seriously, it's going to need ironing. We're going to definitely iron it, but it was if anyone asks, the reason why I did not iron it is it would be much easier just iron the pieces laid out flat, the pieces that we use. Where's my seam ripper? There it is. Like I said, we're going to, look, there's the zipper again. Let's see, can we free the zipper? Just one side of it, one side of that ugly ass zipper. Now, let's just cut this extra piece of white off as best as possible. Alright. And we'll just drop it on the floor for now. Salvage that piece. Now, let's rip the rest of this ruined zipper off and throw it away. I'm just removing it. Alright, oh shit. Okay. Alright, let's cut the rest off. Alright. Oh god, another. Alright. There we go. Now we have, oh lord, look at this. This is why it was way too much gathering. Alright, this is way too much gathering. This is for a plus size person, and yeah. Okay, let's just cut all this white out. And then we can kind of see the full extent of what's going on. Oh yes, the way they made this dress was a lot worse. Oh lord, this was a rush job. This was a horrific rush job. Look how easy this is to just rip without seam ripping. There are some sections that is pretty good, and there's some sections that are not. Alright. Now, then, here it is, the back piece. Like I said, we want to try to salvage this as much as we can. Alright, so here is another skirt panel. Perfect. Alright, so, okay. Let's see, can we see? Yes, okay. We're going to have to seam rip all of this, and then we can just lay it out flat. And then we can see what we have to play with. So, alright. I will be right back, you guys. I'm going to seam rip this all off camera. And we're back, and here's what we unearthed. Look how wide that is. That's quite wide. However, now, normally this piece is one conjoined piece, but they made it a two-piece, which is fine. So, because there is this right here, I don't know if we can keep this, trying to think, I don't know, I think we're going to have to trim this, but we are going to try to salvage this piece. So, as you can see here, there is a cut and gather. Normally, it's just like a long piece of fabric with an armhole, but what they did was they made the back bodice, and then they, you know, attach the skirt, which is fine because, like I said, it could basically kind of be like historical piecing. So what we are going to do is we're going to trim this off, but first we're going to seam rip the connected pieces and then separate the top part that was basically the back part of the bodice, and this will basically mean we're fully devoted to making the the ring or the round dress style, or robe a la paniers. I'm hoping I'm saying it right. Or if I'm literally mentioning the right dress, you know what I mean, you guys? So, yes. And you guys seen the picture, so you kind of know what I'm making. So yeah, we are going to seam rip all of this, and then we're going to cut this section. So, wish me luck. I'm going to do that all off camera. We did get a little excited, and we did end up making one tear, but that's fine. We can always sew that together, and it will probably be hidden in a gather. So yeah, we just got a little too excited, but luckily we didn't get way too excited, otherwise it would have been more damage. But we are keeping the joined pieces together, but we are cutting. We're going to use this as a guideline and cut down here so we have a skirt panel. So we cut the pieces, and here's what we have. I apologize if you can't see it fully because, you know, white and pastel pink. So this is the front and the back piece of the original dress. As you can see, it doesn't fit properly. There's gaps. The armhole is way too wide. So here are the pattern pieces. Let me show you the front real quick. The front, as you can tell, is obviously for a sack dress. If you lay it properly, look at that gap. Yeah, we would need to extend it a lot. So here's the front piece. And we're just going to do an overlay real quick, and we're going to see, yeah, I used all my pins. One sec, you guys. All right, So for a very proper front piece, we're going to add this, we're just pinning it, and as you can see, it's reached to the center just about. Let me properly pin it. We will be adding a little bit of extra slack, just in case. Now for the back piece. Now the back piece, let's see. It's just about there, but as you can see, the armhole, we'll need to alter armhole. So we're going to have to make a whole new back piece. If we want it accurate, we also need to widen it up. So let's basically, yes. We're going to have to completely change the back piece from how it looks. So let's literally line it up where it should go. And then, yes, I can already see how the back piece is going to work. So we want to kind of bring it up here, extend it. All right, here is that paper that I laid out for it. So we may end up having to cut a whole new sheet. All right. Let's see. If we started here, all right. If we gapped it, it would fit. All right. Okay, so what we're going to do is we want to kind of centerpiece it. So here's the center. This is where it would start. Right. All right, let's raise it up a bit so we have some room. Come on, get out of there, pin. We want to pin. And then And you kind of want to lift this up. There. And then let's just pin that. Yes. You can always bring that down. So, let's see, let's raise this a little bit more. Works a bit. Alright. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to do this in a part 2 because we're already using a lot of film time. So I'm going to do a part 2 real quick, but first I am going to edit all this real quick. So I will see you soon in part 2.